Hey, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. You're listening to the longest running superhero role playing game on Earth. I'm your host, the Game Master, and today we're talking about Captain Marvel, the Marvel family, their allies, and their enemies. But before we get into that, smash that like button, make sure you're subscribed, and to leave us a comment. That helps us out with the YouTube algorithm, but also we love to hear from you guys. We have an awesome community here, and it's all thanks to you. So thank you so much for being here. So, all that said, let's dive in. The prologue to today's story takes place on Earth K in 2025, when a battalion of OMAC soldiers created by LexCorp destroy the Rock of Eternity. The Marvel family loses their powers, and William Batson, formerly known as the original Captain Marvel, is suddenly a 97-year-old man. And the sudden shock gives him a heart attack, so he's rushed to the hospital. Which brings us to the main plot of today's adventure. Batson survives, but he is still in the hospital, and a ton of people come to visit him on what may very well be his deathbed. Cissie Batson, Bill's wife, is here. Her maiden name was Sommerly, and she was Billy's love interest in the comics back in the day. Her first appearance was Captain Marvel Adventures number 12, all the way back in June of 1942. And on Earth K, we had said that they'd gotten married. And since we use real time on Earth K, then that means they're both very elderly in 2025. And there are three other men here who are named Bill Batson also. There's Fat Billy, Hillbilly, and Tall Billy. And they were accidentally granted the powers of Shazam too, due to what was sort of like a loophole when the wizard Shazam said that, quote unquote, Billy Batson shall now possess the powers of Shazam. It meant that all the Billy Batsons on Earth K got powers that day. And when the main Billy met his three namesakes, they were dubbed the Lieutenant Marvels. And for those that are interested, their first appearance was in Whiz Comics, issue number 21 in 1941. Also here in the hospital is Dudley H. Dudley, who first appeared in WOW Comics number 18 in October of 1943. His adopted daughter, Darla, is here. She first appeared in Flashpoint number 1 in July of 2011. And Dudley H. Dudley's niece, Freckles Marvel, is also here. She first appeared in WOW Comics number 35 in April of 1945. And since they aren't the only ones here who have wielded the power of Shazam, I'll try to get through that list really fast. Eugene Choi. His first appearance was Flashpoint number 1, July of 2011. Freddy Freeman, aka Captain Marvel Jr. First appearance is Whiz Comics number 25 in December of 1941. Hoppy the Marvel Bunny. First appearance was Fawcett's Funny Animals number 1, December of 1942. Mary Batson, aka Mary Marvel. First appeared in Captain Marvel Adventures number 18 in December of 1942. Mr. Tawky, the anthropomorphic tiger. He first appeared in Captain Marvel Adventures number 79 in 1947. Pedro Panay first appeared in Flashpoint number 1 in July of 2011. Regina Taylor, first appearance was Injustice versus Masters of the Universe, issue number 2, October of 2018. Ceezahr Kaan, first appearance was Justice League Generation Lost number 14 in January of 2011. At any rate, so all of them are powerless now since the Rock of Eternity has finally been destroyed. And they're visiting Batson on his deathbed, and they're talking about the many adventures that they shared over the years. And as they do, Queen Zumbrota Kaan of Pluto walks in. She is the daughter of Ceezahr Kaan, who was the evil king of the planet Pluto in 1947. On Halloween of that year, Plutonian spies abducted Captain Marvel, who was often referred to as quote unquote Earth's mightiest mortal. So they transported Billy to the planet Pluto, where he was forced to fight a champion from every other planet in the solar system. We saw that back in the Marvel Family, issue number 16. Billy met the evil king and defeated him, and in the years that followed, the kind Princess Zumbrota was eventually the one to sit on the throne. So for decades, she's been a friend and ally to the Marvel family, and she's brought Plutonian physicians with her to see if their technology can be of any help in this situation. But sadly, nothing helps. The next to visit is King Ulela of Uranus. He basically looks like Iceman of the X-Men, but his body is made of crystal. He wears a crown, which is also made of crystal, and his first appearance was All-Star Comics number 13, all the way back in October of 1942. An evil crystalline alien named Kafta committed various acts of terror, but in the end, Kafta falls victim to his own weapons. And in the years that followed, King Ulela had been a friend and ally to the Marvel family, and he tries to help too, but again, nothing helps. The next to visit is Solo, the self-proclaimed quote-unquote master of masters and the high king of the planet Neptune. Unlike the others that I've mentioned thus far, Solo is actually a villain. He first appeared in Wonder Woman Volume 1, issue number 15, back in December of 1945. And in that comic, we learned that the Neptunians are all male, and they reproduce through a weird form of cloning. Worst of all is they have a device which could remove the halos from a man, which left him in a strange state where he was more susceptible to suggestion. So this evil gadget was used to turn one's enemies into slaves. So in this context, when we describe the masters of Neptune, these are all artificially creative men who are warlords whose goal is to enslave all the others, right? And Solo is the most powerful Neptunian of them all, asserting dominance over the other so-called masters. His ultimate goal is to turn them into his mindless slaves, but all of this was overshadowed when a race of energy beings arrived in the solar system in June of 1949. We saw this in Marvel Family Volume 1, issue number 36. Each one of these energy beings was basically like a tiny sun. And weirdly enough, they hailed from outside of this dimension. Their goal was to burn all the life out of the universe, leaving only dead space. And in the comics, they actually managed to wipe out life on every single planet in the solar system except for Earth. So this was actually a really major event in the comic books of the time. You know, it was really ahead of its time. Anyways, in the original Captain Marvel run, the heroes eventually trapped these quote unquote infinite beings in a quote unquote finite prison, which limited them so much that the energy beings burned themselves out. So they were destroyed, but in the comics, it was too late. All these other races had been killed off. But in the Earth K setting, where our role playing game takes place, we say that the Marvel family defeated the energy beings in time to save all of the races of the solar system. And as such, the masters of Neptune were in Billy's debt. So they've come here hoping that they could save his life so that they could be even. But as was the case with the other alien visitors I've mentioned thus far, nothing helps. The next alien to visit is Queen Loana of Jupiter. She's an original character of ours that we actually named after the Raquel Welch character from 1 million years BC. The people of Jupiter themselves were first seen in the Marvel Family, Volume 1, Issue number 5, back in October of 1946, and they were all cavemen. And in that issue, the Marvel Family pretty much do the exact opposite of what the Prime Directive is all about in Star Trek. The Marvel Family teach the people of Jupiter how to speak English, as well as how to read and write, make fire, and even make spear weapons for the first time. As such, nobody in this culture had names yet before they met Captain Marvel, which is why we had to come up with our own name for the Queen of Jupiter. And while Queen Loana means well, her people are just too low tech to be of any help, right? So nothing they do works either, but she still visits with Bill Batson anyways. You know, she wants to be there and hold his hand and stuff like that. Next up is Queen Jarna of Venus. Her first appearance was Marvel Mystery Comics number 25 in September of 1941. She was a normal sized woman, like all Venusian females, but the men were about the size of a Barbie doll. Together, they tried to invade Earth in 1941, but the superheroes defeated them and sent them packing. And just like the villainous King of Neptune, the Queen of Venus was spared from extinction by Billy Batson. So she and her tiny physicians try to help, but nothing works. After that, we meet Jemm Jaxx, the current king of Saturn, as well as his wife, Ceezahr, who is the queen of Saturn. Their first appearance was Jemm, Son of Saturn, issue number 1, published in September of 1984. Despite being referred to as Saturnians, the people of Saturn are actually Martians from DC Comics. Saturn, as it turns out, was colonized by Mars a really long time ago. And those early Saturnians were all clones of Martians. The green Martians cloned themselves, and those clones turned out to have red skin, while the white Martians cloned themselves, and their clones had white skin. At any rate, the colony on Saturn was abandoned, and the white clones lived on Saturn's poles, while the red Saturnians lived in the desert regions. As their tech levels progressed, the two races became aware of each other, and a long and bloody war ensued. Around the time that Jemm was born, his cousin Jogar was captured by white Saturnians. They forced him to mine an element which ultimately was used to create something akin to nuclear weapons. And those same weapons were then used to basically destroy Saturn. The red Saturnians fled to one of Jupiter's moons, which they named New Bach, while the tyrannical white Saturnian matriarchy hunted the Reds down, wanting to exterminate every last one of them. Jemm arrived on Earth in 1984. He fled various white Saturnians, and Jemm even had a human enemy named Claudius Tull, who was a rich old man whose mansion was full of incredibly high-tech comic book machinery. One such gadget would transfer the powers of a Saturnian into him. And after draining the life force from more than one of the Saturnians, Claudius developed a form of astral projection. His nigh cosmic astral self then appeared before both the remaining reds and whites, who were on the brink of finally destroying each other in one massive battle. And that took place right before the Crisis on Infinite Earths. But at the last second, Jemm defeated Claudius. bringing about an end to the Saturnian Civil War. A beautiful white Saturnian named Sin, who was the supreme commander of all white Saturnians, hailed all of her ships and declared the war was finally over. Ceezahr, Jemm's girlfriend, was rescued from the mansion of Claudius Tull, where he had drained some of her life force, but not all of it. And in the years following the crisis in the mid-80s, Jemm married Ceezahr, and as king and queen, the two of them began rebuilding the post-apocalyptic planet Saturn, something the Marvel family helped with. So, just as it was with the others, King Jemm brings physicians and technology, but as before, none of this can really combat the shock to Billy Batson's system of finally reverting to his 97-year-old human form, right? But nonetheless, King Jemm and Queen Ceezahr stay with Billy and pay their respects because it looks like the end. Speaking of Martians, Dejah Thoris goes up next. In our game, so many different races have been said to live on Mars that some compromises needed to be made. So we said that the notorious Dejah Thoris, Princess of Mars in the John Carter franchise, was in our world the same species as the Martian Manhunter from DC Comics. And since Martian Manhunter's race are shapeshifters, we thought her looking like she does in John Carter seemed like a pretty easy thing for her to pull off. Unfortunately, the villain Ares, who the Romans referred to as Mars, had found out humanity had named a planet after him. So he went there and conquered it, starting a terrible civil war. Ares has a power called broadcast empath. And wherever he goes, the people around him are spurned on to fight each other. And in the 1950s, the Martian Manhunter and his family fled to Earth to escape the collapse of their civilization. And then in February of 1959, a white Martian named Benn Blanx detonates a weapon which destroys the surface of Mars, engulfing everything in flame. We, by the way, saw that in Justice League of America, Volume 1, issue number 144. Then, in February of 1977, the surviving Martians went to the Cygnus star system, where the fourth planet there was named Mars 2, or New Mars. And Dejah Thoris, to this day, rules that planet as queen. During the years when they were terraforming that planet, building cities, so on and so forth, the Marvel family helped out. And just like with the other aliens gathered here today, the Martian Queen tries to help Bill Batson, but nothing works. So she stays around too to pay her respects. And last but not least, Celerita, Queen of Mercury, appears. She too was a villain who Billy Batson saved from those energy beings who tried to snuff out all life in the solar system. So she too is in Billy's debt. So even though she used to be one of Captain Marvel's enemies, she tries to save him and fails. Speaking of beings from other planets who are enemies of Captain Marvel, while the aliens I just mentioned are all in the hospital, taking advantage of what little time they have left with the Marvel family, something quite different is happening miles beneath their feet inside the Hollow Earth, which DC Comics refers to as Skartaris. There dwells the Monster Society of Evil, led by the evil Mr. Mind, a worm-like alien being from Venus who first appeared in Captain Marvel Adventures number 22 back in March of 1943. Mr. Mind had invaded the expansive headquarters of the Justice Society of America and was inspired by them to create a society of his own. In our game world, the Monster Society of Evil has lived in Skartaris for years. One of them is Albrecht Krieger, whose first appearance was Master Comics number 21 back in December of 1941. He was an evil German soldier in World War II, so he is right at home in the Hollow Earth, along with other evil German soldiers who fled here during that era. And they've built secret air bases, and they even have their own fleet of flying saucers. Another Captain Marvel villain is Crocodile Man, whose first appearance was Captain Marvel Adventures number 22 back in March of 1943. He's an anthropomorphic crocodile from the planet Pun-Kus. And since the Egyptians had a crocodile god named Sobek, we had our version of Crocodile Man team up with Black Adam since he was more Egyptian themed. And just as Crocodile Man is an anthropomorphic crocodile, likewise, Goat Man is an anthropomorphic goat. Goat Man's first appearance was Captain Marvel Adventures issue number 26 back in August of 1943. And since goat imagery and symbolism has long been associated with evil and the underworld, we felt like putting him in a subterranean area like Skartaris felt like a really good fit. Then there is Jeepers, who is an anthropomorphic bat. His first appearance was Captain Marvel Adventures number 36 in June of 1944. And again, just like the thing where I was talking about the subterranean area with the goat imagery, all of that applies to bats too, the caves and so on and so forth. So we felt like Skartaris was a good fit for him too. Next up is King Kull, who is a caveman with a bunch of high-tech gadgets, which always reminded me of He-Man in a way. His first appearance was Captain Marvel Adventures number 125 back in October of 1951. And by the way, he's got He-Man beat by about 30 years in terms of having that juxtaposition between kind of high-tech and low-tech. And if you ever read the old Skartaris comics starring Warlord, they were very He-Man. They even made some Warlord toys that were meant to compete with the Masters of the Universe toys back in the 80s. I actually had a Warlord action figure, and I thought he was a He-Man toy. But at any rate, I digress. The point is that King Kull is a great fit for Skartaris, and he is an old I'm tongue-tied. He's an old enemy of the Marvel family. That's what I'm trying to spit out. Also here in the Hollow Earth is Mr. Atom, who is a kaiju-sized giant robot akin to the mechs that we see in Pacific Rim, which, by the way, also deals with the idea of the Hollow Earth, just like the recent Godzilla versus King Kong stuff did, right? So again, it seemed like a good fit to have him here, right? And for those that are interested, Mr. Atom's first appearance was in Captain Marvel Adventures number 78 back in November of 1947. Also here is a very obscure character named Trinity, who was actually featured in the channel art this week. Trinity's first appearance was New Titans Annual issue number 6 back in September of 1990. Trinity also appeared in Wonder Woman Volume 2, issue number 183. In that issue in particular, Trinity was in Skartaris, and we discover that Trinity is a living computer virus created long ago in Atlantis, and that many of the Atlanteans fled to Skartaris during the Great Flood that sank Atlantis. So Trinity was created with the power to restore a target to its previous state. That means Trinity could reset Skartaris to how things were when the Atlanteans first arrived there. Or for that matter, Trinity could just unsink Atlantis. And last but not least, there is Ibak. His first appearance was Captain Marvel Adventures number 8 back in March of 1942. His real name was Stanley Printwhistle, and he was a criminal in the Golden Age who literally sold his soul to the devil to have the same powers as Captain Marvel. So whereas Billy Batson would say Shazam and he would transform, Stan Lee would say I back and then he would transform. And he and Captain Marvel were evenly matched. But now, when the Monster Society of Evil attacks, of course, Captain Marvel can't show up because he's on his deathbed. And the rest of the Marvel family are more or less in the same boat, right? So the Monster Society of Evil rises up out of the hollow earth and begins to wreak havoc. And since the Marvel family can't fight them, Queen Zumbrota Kaan of Pluto, King Ulala of Uranus, King Solo of Neptune, Queen Loana of Jupiter, Queen Jarna of Venus, King Jemm of Saturn, Queen Dejah Thoris of New Mars, and Queen Celerida of Mercury all attack the Monster Society members, but it's a slaughter. The Monster Society are all on par with the Marvel family. While not every one of these kings or queens can hold a candle to them. And as all of this craziness is going on, Dr. Sivana shows up. He debuted in Whiz Comics #2 back in February of 1940. But in the Multiversity Thunderworld Adventures #1, which was February of 2015, we saw where he too had Captain Marvel powers, though he achieved it through scientific means rather than taking the magical route. And when his kids said his last name, they too were granted powers. So Captain Marvel's counterpart was Magnificus Sivana, whose first appearance was Whiz Comics #15 in March of 1941. Captain Marvel Jr.'s counterpart was Thaddeus Sivana Jr., whose first appearance was Captain Marvel Adventures #52 in January of 1946. And Mary Marvel's counterpart was Georgia Sivana, whose first appearance was in Mary Marvel #1 in December of 1945. And Georgia Sivana not only had the same powers that Mary Marvel had, but she was now made beautiful as well. And that was somewhat tragic because for the first time, she knows what it is to be pretty and have people treat her well. And in Multiversity Thunderworld Adventures, we see that Georgia Sivana actually has the potential to be a hero. Then we see that again in this game when she fights Trinity, who is trying to reset Skartaris. Trinity is causing many of the people there to age backwards, which is exactly what we saw her do in Wonder Woman Volume 2, #183, which had a cover date of September of 2002. In that specific issue, Trinity was trying to reset Skartaris, and she was de-aging people in the Hollow Earth, turning them into babies and stuff like that. As a brief aside, I also thought it was implied that the reason why time is so messed up in Skartaris may also be the fault of Trinity. A person can spend a day in Skartaris only to return to the surface world and find that a few seconds have passed for everybody else. Or you could go to Skartaris for one day and you come back and find out that 1,000 years went by for everybody else. Skartaris is just super chaotic like that. So the Sivana family beat down Trinity by tackling her and yelling Sivana, so that the tech-based villain is struck by cosmic levels of lightning over and over and over again. Trinity finally surrenders, and the super-powered Dr. Sivana drags Trinity to the hospital where Bill Batson is on his deathbed. And Captain Marvel's archenemy does the unthinkable. He forces Trinity to de-age Billy Batson. So Trinity does. Billy is young and healthy again, and Dr. Sivana shows the Marvel family the formula that he came up with. So for the first time, Billy Batson yells Sivana, and he is struck by black lightning and transformed into a new version of Captain Marvel. He still wears red, but now the gold thunderbolt on his chest has been traded out for a glossy black Thunderbolt, in keeping with the designs that we saw the Sivana family have in the Multiversity comic. Billy asks why Sivana saved him, and Sivana says if anyone's going to kill Captain Marvel, it's going to be him. And the fact that Billy has powers is a form of revenge too, since it's Sivana that he has to thank for that. Billy is annoyed by this, and the Sivana family is amused. Dr. Sivana tells Billy to get some rest because he's going to need it. Sivana threatens to destroy Billy when he least expects it. And that brings us to the epilogue. The Marvel family fight the OMACs again. This time they take a cue from how the Sivana family beat Trinity, and they get an OMAC and a bear hug and yell, Sivana. The lightning shorts out the nanites, and the veterans that were inside of the OMAC shells are safely released. In the case of Brad Williams, who we mentioned in the last game, not only is he now free of the influence of the OMAC technology, but he also learns the trick of being able to yell the name Sivana and be transformed into a super-powered version of oneself. So Brad heads into the Hollow Earth, where he figures out how to use his new powers by fighting various monsters that are native to Skartaris. But that is, of course, a story for another day. We enjoyed this one. We hope that you did too. I had some listeners ask me to cite which comics I was getting which ideas from. If you guys like it that way, say so in the comments section. And if you'd rather I not do that, that would also be a good thing to put in the comments section. And while you're at it, smash like and make sure you're subscribed. And from all of us here at the longest running superhero role-playing game on Earth, we hope you have a good one, and we'll see you in the next adventure. Bye.